The spray of the sea hit your face while you held onto the soft seats that lined the inner sanctum of the yacht. The summer sun spilled everywhere, and its bite nipped your skin. Contradicting elements came together all at once. The heat of the sun, the chill of the sea breeze, and the coolness of the seawater made it almost perfect. Calming. The thought of contradiction made you chuckle inwardly. Whoever would have thought that Katsuki Bakugou knew how to sail? It was another organized date, of course, one that almost never happened thanks to a rise in crime rate recently. Still, due to Bakugou's status and rank, he literally, if not boldly to say the least, demanded a weekend away. Again, organization was key. He had already hired a yacht, a beach house, and all the necessities needed to have a comfortable weekend. He also had demanded 5 days leave despite the weekend time frame, keeping into account the travel to and fro to this luxury weekend date away from home. You were taken by surprise when the week before he called out of the blue, ordered you to take the same days off along with an itinerary of what to take on this trip. When Bakugou was demanding in this way, well, you couldn't argue against it. Sitting by the yacht's edge, you peered into the distance, watching the waves crash into the shore. The clinking of glass and ice caught your ear beside you, spotting a glass of refreshments in the hands of none other than Bakugou. You smiled up at him while he joined you on the plush seats, sitting beside you and immediately wrapping his arms around your frame, his head leaning atop your shoulder. You felt his defined muscles against your back, feeling them almost relax into you. After all, he had manned this yacht on his own, out in the middle of the bay. Without his quirk, no less. Impressive. "You doing okay?" you asked, holding onto his arms. He grunted into your neck, feeling his weight on you. You couldn't help but smile, thinking that he was relaxing a little too much. "I guess work has been hard, hasn't it?" you continued while you took a sip of your glass.
"Ugh, you wouldn't believe,"
he answered slowly, nuzzling into your back. "Still, you're calling up my agency to tell them I'm not available this weekend? That was priceless."
"Ugh, you're too slow, lightweight."
You leaned into Bakugou's frame, settling into his chest while his arms still held you close. His hands found yours, intertwining his fingers while his head leaned into your crown, enjoying the company and the sway of the yacht. His weight and hold on you was a comforting sensation. He had always, in one form or another, kept a hold on you, despite your ability to keep yourself grounded. Still, it helped, especially now that you were out in the water, in the bay. The rolling waves didn't help give a good sense of grounding. "This is nice," you spoke, relaxing into Bakugou's warmth.
"It better be,"
commented Bakugou. "You're saltier than the sea. What's going on?" Bakugou pouted while he leaned his head into your neck and tightened his grip on you. A grumble resonated in his throat, its guttural curdle vibrating against your back. If it wasn't for his frustration, wherever it was originating from, it felt nice.
"Ugh, it's just... things haven't been going as planned,"
he explained. "What do you mean?" You were met with a growing, slightly uncomfortable silence. Bakugou just held you, distracted by his thoughts for the days already spent on this weekend getaway. The trip to Polis Massa Bay was interesting. A 4 a.m. start at Tatooine Station, a 2-hour train ride, and then rain. Bakugou had checked the weather forecast thrice over a few days before, with no signs of rain. Perhaps an overcast day, but not rain. He recalled the look on your face, giggling at his misery while waiting for a taxi to take the both of you to the beach house he hired. The house was decent. In fact, there was a lot. Bakugou spared no expense in hiring for luxury rather than comfort, despite your surprise about the size of the beach house. Modest, considering it was meant for couples by the look of it. Bakugou recalled your obvious comment, teasing you constantly and finding some joy in your reactions upon arrival. The days that already flew by went without a hitch, at least to your knowledge. For Bakugou, it was one aggravated event after the other. Firstly, phone calls from his agency wouldn't let up on the first day spent at the bay, to the point Bakugou actually blocked their number. He made it a rule to not be disturbed, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. He went so far to block your agency's number too, after a couple of calls came through your phone. Even though you were surprised by Bakugou's persistence, you shrugged it off as his way to keep his professional life out of mind. You understood that. Bakugou's frustrations only grew with the slightest things. A moment at the rock pools, though you had a relaxing time, involved slippery rocks that affected your ability to stay on land, and one frustrated Bakugou saving you before you crash-landed into the water. You laughed it off as clumsiness, yet Bakugou seethed at you, splashing water into your face before the both of you started a minor war out in the rock pool waters. All fun and games, you thought. At this point, it was a very relaxing weekend away with him. A couple of days in was filled with some minor activities and exploration, including some hiking that eventually turned into another rescue attempt, and lounging at the beach, which involved a very sorry individual that tried to hold a conversation with you. Even more so, while making one trip back to your beach house, you bumped into a classmate of Bakugou's and invited him over for lunch. Needless to say, Bakugou was not pleased. And now, after spending almost 3 days with bright sun, clear skies, and crystal waters, there was only one night left before the train ride back home. You turned your gaze upwards at Bakugou while he peered down at you in his arms, your body having slid down on the seats while your head laid on his lap. "Did something happen?" you asked, attempting to break the silence when Bakugou refused to answer your last question. If anything, Bakugou's first thought was that nothing had happened. Nothing that he originally planned.
No,
he replied, truthfully in his mind. "Then what's up? Was it because I invited Shinso to lunch yesterday?" A discontented growl resounded in Bakugou's throat.
Kinda, but not really,
he answered with dejection. He couldn't blame Shinso entirely for his vexation. It was a coincidence that he and his significant other happened to be in the same place, learning of their working holiday during lunch. "Hey, I know you're not a fan of most of your former classmates," you continued. "But at least it wasn't Midoriya?"
Do we have to talk about that nerd right now?
Sorry? Bakugou sighed heavily. The last thing he wanted was to throw all his exasperation onto you.
No. I am sorry.
He apologized. You stared at him, partly confused, partly wary. "Okay, Where's Katsuki, and what did you do with him? You questioned lightly with a cheeky smile. It only took a moment for it to fall while you looked into Bakugou's scowl. How soft it appeared while he looked down at you. It was still intense. There was something about his presence that demanded attention, and you could feel that no matter how close or how far away you were from him. His hands found his way to your cheeks, grasping onto them while he lowered his head, his lips planting on top of yours. You relaxed into his lap and his lips, feeling him deepen further as if he would lose his grip from you. The waves, the air, and the sound of the bobbing yacht disappeared. It was only you and him. Feeling your breath almost stolen from you, he parted ways, his breath warming your neck, while yours warmed his. "Wow," you murmured. "Where did that come from?" He did not say a word. He merely lifted himself while he held his red scowl on you, still on his lap. "Damn it," he thought. "Why did you have to look so cute?"
What? I can't kiss you now?
A slow, bubbling giggle escaped your throat at his response. You've gotten used to his deflections, but you too cleared your throat, knowing something was definitely bothering him. "Sorry,"
Oh, quit apologizing.
he remarked while he looked away from you.
Nothing's your fault.
Bakugou stared out towards the shore. The rest of the day was this yacht, really. Somewhere out of people's way, where no one would approach you or bother him. Yet he never felt so alone making this decision. He breathed deeply, turning his scowl back onto you.
We've been together for a while. Huh?
He started, his voice uncharacteristically calm. "Ever since he graduated UA? Yeah." You agreed.
You were a handful.
"Hey, you were curious. After I've told you all of my secrets, I'm surprised you hung around."
Tuh, you couldn't be trusted by yourself.
"I am very capable of looking after myself. Thank you very much."
Tying your wrist to the bed every night isn't a good example.
You cringed at his words. It was true that before becoming long-term with Bakugou that every night you had to ensure you were tied to your own bed, or else you would find yourself sleeping on the ceiling. In fact, Bakugou had gone out of his way to purchase wrist and ankle braces for you to sleep in, ones that were weighted to keep you grounded. It took a while for you to familiarize yourself with the now added weight to your sleeping regimen, but it helped.
Ugh, this isn't the point.
Continued Bakugou, while your attention was brought back to him, and not your memories.
I wanted to ask you something.
Hmm?
We've been through a lot, whether together or apart. Sometimes I wonder when we're on missions together that we would deliberately put together. And at the end of the day, I'm glad that we did.
You stared up at Bakugou, curious of his speech and his slightly sensible nature.
We work well together. You're smart. You have common sense. Half the time. And you're one of the few people I can talk to.
A warmth filled your cheeks while a smile was plastered on your face. The amount of joy that tingled in your chest was outstanding. Hearing these words from the most temperamental person you knew, from Bakugou of all people, was groundbreaking and heartwarming. He was a man that rarely said, "I love you," but he would show appreciation in his own way. In fact, hearing this now almost seemed like it was
I wanted us to get away from all the extras and idiots so that we could relax and enjoy ourselves together. Work has us beat, and I want to make a fresh start.
Bakugo's hand reached out into the pocket of his shorts, tugging at something deep inside.
So, Twinkle Toes.
He spoke, while you watched him, still laying on his lap, your heart racing.
I wanted to ask.
A sudden crash into the yacht's side caused the whole vessel to rock violently. Your body rolled off from Bakugo's lap and onto the deck with a smack, while Bakugo immediately, though aggravatingly, looked over the side, finding only lapping water against the yacht's hull. What was that? You grunted, standing to your feet and joining Bakugo in his search.
Ugh, who the hell knows?
He replied, frustrated. Suddenly the yacht rocked from behind you, pushed by a force from underneath. Bakugo immediately grabbed for the yacht's boom. You, on the other hand, the sudden rush of salt water engulfed your body before you immediately righted yourself upwards, catching your breath. Now in the ocean waters, you began to tread and swim towards the yacht's hull that still swayed from whatever inertia it suffered earlier.
You okay, lightweight?
Yeah. You replied through bated breath, your eyes scanning the water's surface. You wished you could just float out from the water's tension, but it was a downside to your quirk. With what little gravity there was no quick way of getting out of any body of water without having to relax and float on its surface first. And currently, with what was hitting the side of the yacht, you didn't have that luxury. You reached the hull, outstretching your hand towards Bakugo while he gripped onto your arm tightly, until you felt him stop, momentarily. His eyes widened when a dark shape began to breach from underneath you, swimming towards you from the deep. You felt his arm pull you violently out of the water, your body suddenly shooting out and floating momentarily in the air. He grabbed a hold of your wrist, carrying you on his shoulder before he peered down at whatever creature reared its head from the waters, his hand sparking brightly. The high-pitched squeal of an orca whale caught both of your ears, its head lightly grazing the hull before it swam away. A few more shapes appeared in a large pod, noticing their migration towards the bay, and soon ignoring your yacht. Bakugo's hands settled while he watched the pod disappear towards the coast, before he felt your body tremble in his arms. His eyes shot towards you, wondering if you were okay or shaken by the encounter, only to hear the stifled bouts of laughter you tried to suppress.
It's not funny.
I can't help it. You should have seen the look on your face. You reasoned, feeling the tension in your ribs. A heavy sigh escaped from Bakugo's throat before he finally calmed, sitting back onto the yacht's seats and swinging your light body into his lap again. You felt his grip around your frame while you settled your laughing fit. After years of being together, it was second nature for him to be overprotective of you, especially because of your quirk. You could feel his arms wrap around your waist still, even after the encounter. It was comforting to know. Meanwhile, Bakugo listened to your laughter settling down after a breathless encounter with marine life. This was it, he thought. He held you with no intention of letting you go. No more mishaps, no more distractions, no more hesitation. His hands maneuvered to his pocket before he pulled out a small, tiny box, flipping its case open and revealing the glint of a ring inside, catching your eye. Your smile dropped as you stared at the piece of jewelry in the palm of his hand, as if it was floating before you. The sensation of Bakugou's breath attacked your neck, feeling his face buried into it while he still held the ring in his hand, gripping onto you and refusing to let you go.
Will you?
He asked, his lips tickling your skin when he spoke. Shivering from the chilly sea air caused Bakugou's arms to tighten around your frame and his neck to bury further into your neck. Yet your eyes stared at the ring in his hand. This whole weekend date, his insistence to organize it prior, and his underlying frustrations all made sense now. You recounted each moment throughout the weekend here, feeling that he must have attempted to propose, but had been hindered by an event in one way or another. It made you crack a smile, wondering what moments would have been his shortcomings. You turned towards him, reaching your hands to cup his warm cheeks, feeling yourself heat up from the embarrassment, the fluster, and his body heat despite your drenched form. You laid a kiss on his lips, immediately feeling him deepen it hungrily and hug into you tighter, before he pulled away, his forehead on yours.
I'll take that as a yes.
He whispered with a smirk, causing you to giggle before he kissed you again. Things didn't go according to plan in Bakugou's mind, but at least the result was what he wanted, and he couldn't be any more happier for it.